Hello, everybody. My name is Nidhi Mehta. I'm a practicing neurologist with the University of Medical School. I'm very honored that Vipin asked me to come by and just speak a few words about Gupta family and introduce the next speaker. Actually, Mrs. Sarita Gupta was the only person I knew when I moved to Reno about 7 years back. And that too, I didn't know her personally. It was one of her math students from India who said, "Oh, I know a great teacher. I think she's still working at the University of Reno, and her name is Mrs. Sarita Gupta. Please call her up." I called her up, and the first conversation I had with her was all about spiritual aspect. I didn't even get a word out of her about the community or anything else. I just fell in love with her. And then I met Mr. Chetan Gupta, who was a man of very few words, as all of us know, but he smiled a lot. He observed people a lot. And just his looks told me that he calculated each and every move of the person who came and visited them. But as opposed to Mrs. Sarita Gupta, who just made everybody comfortable and talked a whole lot. But Mr. Gupta, though he spoke less, but he was a man of conviction, kindness, and a very, very intelligent man. I would like to introduce the next speaker, Dr. Brandkamp, who's the assistant professor of speech pathology at University Med School. All of us speak every day, but I don't think so any of us appreciate the value of speech at all. It's just like everything else in our life. Our family, relatives, we don't really appreciate them. We only start appreciating them when we lose them. And nobody more than Dr. Brandkamp can talk about the value of speech that is so much undervalued by all of us. All right, I would like to introduce Dr. Brandkamp.
Hello. I'm short. Let's see. Here we go. First of all, I've learned a bit each time that I've met with Vipin, and he did share with me that Hindu concept that asserts when somebody loses the ability to speak, it is because the other side does not want that person to reveal what they're seeing. It was shared with me that Dr. Gupta experienced this during the last days of his life. However, with the assistance of his speech-language pathologist, he was able to reveal to his family that he was seeing on the last day of his life. His last few spoken words in both English and Hindi provided immeasurable consolation to his family. So who am I and why am I here? I work as an assistant professor in the Department of Speech Pathology and Audiology. I had the gift of meeting Dr. Gupta one time, and he was working on a grant with my colleague, Dr. Truni Lamberg, and friend, and my husband, who's also a friend and a colleague. Dr. Gupta was the lead instructor of mathematics content in the second year of the Northern Nevada Math Project grant. His role was to increase the teachers' mathematical content knowledge so they could in turn better understand the mathematics they were teaching to their students. I remember Dave and Taruni talking to me about their experience traveling rural Nevada with Dr. Gupta. And what they shared was that they really loved seeing the spark come alive in him when he was watching these teachers learn mathematics at a deeper level so that they could in turn make a difference to their students. However, more importantly was the fact that Dr. Gupta was learning from these teachers as much as he was giving. And he told Dave that his involvement here was actually going to impact the way he taught his future students. So to me, that was the epitome of a lifelong learner. And that's sort of what I've gleaned throughout today, a lot about Dr. Gupta. So really, why am I here about, I'm a speech pathologist. What do I know about mathematics, right? Well, the family also shared that Dr. Gupta's death experience subscribed to the Hindu philosophy in the last days of his life. So there are many in the United States who also experience a similar path. And those who lose their ability to speak due to stroke or accident or some other neurologic event, the loss of speaking is called aphasia. So aphasia is an acquired communication disorder and it impairs a person's ability to process language. It does not affect intelligence. Aphasia impairs the ability to speak and to understand others. In addition, when somebody has aphasia, they often might have difficulty reading and writing. There's also another cohort who will have difficulty with mathematics. And this difficulty with mathematics is called acalculia. So for the mathematicians here today, and for all of us really, can you imagine a point where something happens to you and you can no longer understand your mathematical equations? You can no longer balance your checkbook or recite a telephone number. In my time as a speech pathologist, I've had many experiences with those who have aphasia and those who have acalculia. Aphasia therapy's got a long history. We sort of know what to do. That is not so with acalculia. In my experience, there was a life-altering client or patient who had this disorder of acalculia. She also had aphasia, and she recovered her language, her ability to speak quite well, but she never got her ability back with numbers. And that was not tolerable to her. She was a banker prior to her stroke. So the idea that we had nothing to offer was not acceptable, and it's bothered me for years and years and years. So when I met Vipin, I'm thinking, there's a lot of serendipity going on here. And I had the time to kind of think about what do I want to say. And in preparing for this talk, I really found myself questioning my belief system. I used to feel that we didn't, as speech pathologists, deal with mathematics because we didn't have time, or it wasn't a priority, it was down the list. And in reality, I'm starting to feel differently that, is it in part because we don't really consider mathematics to be a language that we teach? So I'm sure there's many mathematicians here who would say, well, duh, Tammy, didn't you know that math is a universal language? Well, maybe, but all of us are not fluent in mathematics. So there's over 4,000 languages and dialects in the world, and some of them share one thing. They share one thing in common. They have categories for verbs and nouns. So we need to start thinking about mathematics as language, but language that can be worked with. Some of us might also think, is mathematics a foreign language? For many, it truly is. It is learned almost entirely at school. It's not spoken at home. Mathematics is not a first language. That is, it does not originate as a spoken language, except for the naming of some small whole numbers. Mathematics has both formal and informal expressions. Some of us are viewed as really good in math, right? That is, we're fluent in mathematics language. Some of us, not so much. Or somewhere along the way, we begin to fear math, or the language of math, as others might fear learning a foreign language. So for us, there's a lot of room to explore the relationship between the acquired difficulty of language, the aphasia, as well as the acquired loss with mathematics, the acalculia. And there is much room to explore additional languages as well. So as we've seen today, Dr. Gupta, he was one of the first to immigrate to the United States from India. He's also one of the first Indian Americans to live his last day in the United States. The Gupta family has established the Rani's Research Endowed Fund to help those who experienced Professor C.P. Gupta's verbal setback, yet otherwise remain firmly in this world in our country. Our intent is to move forward with the exploration of mathematics and language, including the languages of India, to assist those who have lost their ability to use their speech and language. It's truly my honor to have briefly known Dr. Gupta and to also share with you a short video from Richard, who, is my understanding, had a big impact on the family. Richard was going to be here today, but he's recovering from a surgery and couldn't make it. He is a person with aphasia. So here's his video.
You have to learn to let things go. There's things you can't do anymore. There's things that you cannot say anymore. There's phrases that you used to use that you cannot find. You have to find new ways to phrase things, new words to use to get the communication across. And if you have to use multiple languages to get it done, use them.
So maybe we'll do some exploration between multiple languages and the language of mathematics. Thank you.